Imagine this. Every morning as you open your eyes, you're not just waking up. You're making a decision, one that sets the course of your entire existence. Life doesn't pause. It doesn't hold space for the indecisive. With each breath, every thought, every seemingly minor action, you're either moving toward the person you truly desire to become or drifting silently and unknowingly further away. This is the reality most never stop to acknowledge. Progress isn't an accident. It doesn't sneak up on you through moments of luck or spontaneous inspiration. It's not reserved for the naturally gifted or the constantly motivated. Progress is a reflection of your training. Daily, not when it's convenient, not when the mood strikes, but consistently with purpose. There are 5 foundational elements, core pillars, that form the difference between existing and transforming. 5 areas you cannot ignore if you truly intend to rewrite your destiny, not from the surface, but from the roots. And all transformation, every real, lasting change, starts in one sacred place, the mind. Because no achievement, no milestone, no external success can withstand the internal collapse that comes from a mind in chaos. You can't sustain growth with a mindset still tethered to fear, trapped in comparison, or frozen by procrastination. That's why the first thing you must do each day, before the world reaches for your attention, is to retrain your thoughts. Every thought is a signal, a directive, a subtle command you're feeding your brain. When you think, even privately, "I'm not good enough," or "I'm not ready," or "this isn't the right time," you're not just narrating a moment, you're encoding a message deep within your neural wiring. You're programming in hesitation. You're reinforcing pathways of avoidance and doubt, training your brain to normalize fear and retreat. This isn't just abstract. This is biological. It's neuroplasticity, the brain's incredible ability to adapt and change, working against you because you're unknowingly instructing it to. But here's the liberating truth. If your brain can learn to fear, it can also learn to rise. It can be reprogrammed. Every time you lean into courage rather than judgment, choose curiosity over silence, or practice gratitude instead of demand, you're showing your brain a new map, a new direction. I don't follow emotion, you're telling it. I follow purpose. And over time, as you repeat these small but powerful choices, your brain reshapes itself. This is how strong mindsets are truly built, not through a single inspiring podcast or a compelling book, but through the silent victories you accumulate when no one else is watching. When your old patterns scream for comfort, but you move anyway. When you observe your self-talk, question your own doubts, and lovingly, but firmly, steer yourself back toward the person you're becoming. Think of your mind as a garden. Every thought you allow to take root is a seed. You can't plant fear and harvest strength. You're either sowing seeds of growth, courage, creativity, or you're leaving the field unattended, allowing weeds of anxiety, doubt, and insecurity to run wild. Whether you act or not, something is always growing within you. So take a breath, truly pause, look inward and ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind each day? If the answer unsettles you, that's your invitation to begin. Not by changing your whole life in a day, but by changing just one recurring thought. Write it down, transform it into a question, then gradually, consciously, turn it into a choice. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is brain training. This is your neural compass, and you, no one else, hold the reins. You don't have to be the best today. That's not the goal, but you do have to become the one who shows up for their mind every single day. Because revolution doesn't begin on the outside. It always starts within. And when that inner foundation shifts, the world outside will never look the same again. Once your mind begins reshaping its path, the next step isn't to throw yourself into productivity. It's to wake up the body, your vessel, your partner, your living, breathing connection to life. No matter how sharp your intentions, if your body is dull, your clarity will blur, your discipline will fade. This is what so few people understand. Your body isn't just a shell, it's your mind expressed physically. Movement isn't optional, it's essential. And not just for health, but for transformation. Ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience agree. When you move, your entire being upgrades. a short walk, a deep breath, standing tall under the morning light. It's not trivial. It's a biological signal. It says, I'm awake, I'm present, I'm here. That message, simple as it sounds, travels fast. Your nervous system receives it. Your brain responds by releasing dopamine, fueling motivation. It releases serotonin, soothing your emotional landscape. It sends norepinephrine, sharpening your focus like a blade. You don't move because you feel ready. You move to feel ready. That's the difference between waiting for life and choosing to engage with it. Physical stagnation is often the first red flag of mental stagnation. A still body becomes a foggy mind. Days spent sitting, scrolling, stuck in one position. It thickens your thinking. It numbs emotion. It dulls clarity. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange haze after long stretches of stillness. That's not laziness. It's a clogged neurological system. And the solution isn't a burst of energy. It's a return to flow. So never underestimate the quiet power of small movement. A few stretches, a short walk, deep breaths at your desk. These aren't meaningless routines, they're chemical resets. They're rituals that rewire your brain, open your clarity, and reawaken the internal strength that stress tries to hide. Because the truth is, your brain and body are not separate. They are one dynamic interacting system. When you avoid movement, you're training your brain to slow down, to drift, to settle into apathy. But when you move, no matter how small, you're reigniting the parts of you that lead, decide, and create. You don't have to train like an athlete. You don't need a fancy gym. You only need one conscious signal. Today, I will move with intention. Do that daily, not for looks, but for energy. And watch how much more alive you begin to feel. Not next week, not next year, today. After your mind is anchored and your body is awakened, the next precious resource you must guard is your attention, your focus. Because in today's world, focus is under attack. It's not just your time that's being stolen. It's your ability to stay with something, to see something through, to connect deeply with anything. Every buzz, every notification, every algorithmically tuned video, it's not harmless. It's a targeted system designed to rewire your brain toward distraction, toward impulsivity. And every time you indulge, even for a second, you're doing more than wasting time. You're training your brain to become addicted to stimulation. You're slowly dismantling the very circuits responsible for patience, for creativity, for meaningful engagement. Here's what's rarely said. Focus is not a gift you're born with. It's a neural skill. And like any skill, it can be trained. It must be trained. Each time you carve out 30 minutes, just 30, to do one thing with full presence, without a phone, without a tab open, without interruption, you are reactivating your deep work circuitry. You're programming your brain to stay, to resist the temptation of novelty, and to build endurance. And the longer you can stay, the sharper you become. That's not just productivity, it's transformation. And here's the beautiful byproduct. When you train focus, you strengthen everything else. You gain clarity, your emotions stabilize, your decision-making improves. Because the one who can focus is the one who can lead, not others but themselves. In a world that glorifies multitasking and endless input, true focus becomes a rare superpower. It gives you freedom, not from responsibility but from chaos, from the feeling of being pulled in 1,000 directions and never truly landing anywhere. Even one decision, one moment of resisting that impulse to scroll, strengthens you. That's where it starts. Not with a grand schedule, but with a single deliberate choice. Today, for this block of time, I will be fully here. I will honor this task. And in doing so, I return to myself. So reflect. Today, how much time did you truly spend in focused presence? If the answer is none, don't shame yourself. Begin tomorrow. Begin with 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. It only has to be deep. Because in a world racing forward, the one who stays with what matters is the one who leaves an irreplaceable mark. After you've trained your mind to think deliberately, moved your body to awaken vitality, and practiced the rare discipline of focus in a distracted world, you arrive at a place often overlooked, the quiet, biological foundation beneath it all. Sleep. It's easy to dismiss rest as a passive act, a break from life. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Sleep isn't disconnection, it's transformation. It's when the real restoration of your being takes place, not just physically, but neurologically, emotionally, and spiritually. When you close your eyes each night, you're not turning away from life. You're entering the sacred workshop where your brain performs its most powerful work. During deep sleep, your brain begins a remarkable process. It clears out toxins that cloud your thinking, processes and consolidates memories, restores emotional balance, and rebuilds essential chemicals, like testosterone for energy and drive, or cortisol for resilience and alertness. Without proper sleep, you're not just tired. You're foggy, reactive, and misaligned without understanding why. Your mind slips into anxiety. Your willpower drains. You try to push forward, but it feels like your internal battery won't charge. Because it can't. Not without that nightly repair. Even a single night of poor sleep can weaken your reflexes, alter your mood, and make decision-making chaotic. It's not laziness, it's depletion. It's a brain running on fumes, incapable of clear thinking or emotional regulation. And yet, in a world that praises hustle and late-night grinding, we treat sleep like wasted time, as though productivity is something earned only in waking hours. You stay up another hour scrolling, working, escaping, and then wake up the next day chasing energy with caffeine, supplements, and guilt. But none of those can replace what your brain is biologically programmed to receive from sleep: true recovery. So how do you reclaim the power of this essential human reset? You turn sleep into a deliberate ritual. You stop treating it as a leftover part of your schedule and start honoring it as a pillar of your performance, your clarity, and your ability to stay aligned. Reset your circadian rhythm each morning with early sunlight. Minimize screen exposure at night so melatonin can rise naturally. Create consistency in your schedule, not just Monday to Friday, but through the weekend, so your nervous system stabilizes. These small practices, repeated, become your biological edge. They transform sleep from a passive act into a self-designed system of renewal. If you want to act with clarity, think with precision, and show up with energy, start here. Don't overlook sleep. Don't dismiss it. Honor it as a nightly ritual of self-construction, because every part of who you are during the day is being rebuilt in those quiet hours. No strong mindset, no meaningful progress, no sustainable discipline can survive if your brain is depleted in silence. Sleep is not surrender. It's strategy. But even after all that, even after mastering your thoughts, igniting your body, reclaiming your attention, and sleeping like your future depends on it, there will come a day, and it won't be rare. You'll wake up and feel nothing. No fire, no clarity, no drive. Just a foggy sense of resistance. No quote will lift you. No plan will excite you. And that's okay. That's not a sign you're failing. It's proof you're human. Because motivation is emotion, and all emotions rise and fall. Even the most resilient minds experience seasons of stillness. The key is not to chase endless motivation. The key is to build something deeper, purpose. Because purpose doesn't rise and fall with mood. It doesn't vanish on hard days. It's the anchor that holds when everything else drifts. It's the quiet force that whispers, "Keep going," when nothing else speaks. Purpose doesn't need applause or visibility. It doesn't need to feel good. It just needs to be real. And when it is, it becomes your internal compass. Biologically, purpose rewires your brain. When you're connected to something meaningful, whether it's your family, your future, your values, or a vision of who you could become, your brain releases a different kind of dopamine, not the shallow, instant gratification kind that comes from likes and scrolls, but a steady, enduring kind, a signal that says, "This is worth it. Keep going." People with a deep purpose aren't superhuman. They simply have better emotional endurance. They recover faster. They persist longer. Not because life is easier, but because they're aligned. You don't need a grand, world-changing mission to start. That comes later maybe, or maybe not. What matters is starting with something personal, something honest. Maybe it's your child. Maybe it's a dream you buried. Maybe it's a promise you made to your younger self. Sit down, ask yourself, Why am I really doing all this? And don't answer with goals. Answer with truths. Because when your purpose is authentic, it becomes a command, not from society, but from your soul. Write it out, read it daily, tape it to your mirror, and live as though every small act is proof of that purpose, because it is. Purpose transforms discipline into devotion. It removes the need for constant external motivation. Suddenly, the hard things aren't just tolerable, they're meaningful. You wake up not because you're excited, but because you're committed. That kind of alignment breeds energy. It doesn't drain you, it fuels you. And eventually you'll realize discipline isn't punishment. It isn't about restriction. It's the deepest form of self-respect. It's the ability to return to your path, regardless of how you feel, what others say, or how loud your excuses get. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't shout. It's the silent handshake between who you are and who you're becoming. And every time you honor that handshake, through action, not words, you strengthen a bond within yourself that cannot be broken. From a neurological perspective, every time you act out of commitment rather than impulse, you activate the prefrontal cortex, your command center. This is where your long-term vision lives. This is where self-leadership is born. So when you rise early, when you put your phone down, when you finish the task you were avoiding, you're not just getting things done. You're literally training your brain to trust you. And internal trust, that's where confidence comes from. Discipline doesn't trap you. It frees you. It releases you from the slavery of mood. It breaks the cycle of self-betrayal. Unlike those fast dopamine hits from scrolling, sugar, or avoidance, discipline offers a deeper, slower, more powerful reward. It doesn't spark fireworks. It lights a fire, one that burns steadily, even in silence. So if today you feel resistance, if your heart isn't in it, if the world feels too heavy, return to discipline. Not because you're chasing perfection, but because you're choosing integrity. You don't need to do something huge, just something hard, something you usually avoid. Do it with quiet, precise intention. That's how you rewrite your identity. That's how you become someone you trust. Not because you're externally validated, but because you're internally consistent. Eventually, you'll find peace in the silence. You'll realize you no longer need pressure or praise to act. You'll act because you've made a promise to yourself. And that promise will be louder than your fear. But life won't test you through chaos every time. Sometimes the biggest test comes in the smallest moment, a delay in your plan, an unexpected criticism, a random wave of fatigue, and suddenly your discipline trembles, your clarity vanishes. In that exact moment, another force must rise: responsibility. This isn't about obligation to others. It's about loyalty to yourself. It's the steady commitment that says, even when the world shifts, I will still show up. Not because I always feel like it, but because I know who I am when everything else is uncertain. That's what makes responsibility sacred. It's not external pressure, it's internal sovereignty. From a neuroscience lens, this is called agency. The belief that you are still at the wheel, that your life is not being dictated by emotion, chaos, or noise, but by deliberate choice. Agency doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from controlling something. One small, repeatable action: making your bed. Journaling 2 sentences, sitting in stillness. Not to impress anyone, but to remind your nervous system, I'm not lost. I'm still here. In fragile moments, small actions are your anchors. They stabilize your breath. They steady your heartbeat. They bring clarity when your mind feels scattered. You don't need to master everything today, just something, anything, because in doing so, you reconnect with the one thing the world can't take from you: your direction. And the most beautiful part? These small actions, repeated without fanfare, become the most powerful rituals of self-trust. They remind you that while the world spins unpredictably, you still hold the map of your inner world. And the one who keeps their word to themselves, even in silence, becomes the one who builds the strongest foundation of all. You've already come so far through the mind, the body, the breath, the rest, the vision, the discipline, and the unwavering thread of responsibility. But you are not done, because something deeper is awakening now. You're not chasing anymore. You're not running on borrowed energy. You're not proving. You're returning to yourself. By now, you've walked with me through every layer of thought, of breath, of focus, of recovery, of purpose, and of inner self-leadership. You've begun to sense the shift, not because the world has changed, but because your perception of yourself has. You're not operating out of default anymore. You're not drifting, reacting, hoping life slows down so you can catch your breath. You're living with intent. You are choosing your pace, your state, your energy, your direction. This isn't about grand declarations or public transformation. This is about the quiet return to self. And that's where the most powerful shift takes place. Not in loud achievements, but in how you move through each day. You've stopped living just to survive. You've started to live awake. Every thought you keep, every decision you make, every presence you bring into a moment, it all begins to build something. Not something you show the world, but something you build within. A quiet, grounded power. A sense of inner alignment that doesn't demand applause. And in that space, you discover the real opportunity that each day offers. Not the opportunity to be perfect, but to realign, to come back, to course correct, to return to your power. Because not everyone will understand this journey. Not everyone will walk beside you through this level of awareness, and that's okay. The people who drift away weren't holding your path. The ones who remain confused by your discipline or your peace don't need to get it, because now you do. And what matters most is that you stay with yourself. That the part of you that once wandered, doubted, or waited for permission has finally returned to its rightful place. Fully present, fully awake. You don't need inspiration to carry you forward. You don't need constant achievement to validate your direction. You don't need others' approval to know you're doing something meaningful. You simply need to repeat what you now know. The power lies in the seemingly simple acts, the quiet repetition of principles, the structure of consistency. Think clearly. Move your body daily. Protect your focus. Sleep with purpose. Live with aligned values. Show up with discipline. And most of all, keep your word to yourself. These are no longer just habits, they're a language. The language of someone who has chosen not to betray themselves. Of someone who has stopped outsourcing direction to mood or validation. Of someone who no longer needs to prove anything to be enough. And that's the root of it all, isn't it? The end of self-betrayal. Because how many times have you promised yourself you'd begin? That you'd try harder? That you'd show up tomorrow with more energy, more will, more readiness? And how often did tomorrow arrive with the same fatigue, the same hesitation, the same empty not yet? That cycle breaks not with a burst of energy, but with one small act of integrity, repeated until it rewires who you are. So now you don't wait. You don't delay alignment. You don't wait for the world to calm down. You no longer wait to be ready enough. You understand that readiness is created, not discovered. And it starts with the smallest action. Something simple, something within reach, but done with full sincerity. Clean your space. Go to bed 1 hour earlier. Take a walk without your phone. Pause and breathe. Sit in silence and simply remind yourself, I am alive. I am rising. Because that is what you are doing, not performing, not proving, but rising. You're reclaiming the ability to begin again, anytime. And that's a power that doesn't need permission. It only needs a conscious decision, a decision repeated until it becomes identity, until it becomes your normal. And yes, you will feel lost again. The fog will return. There will be days when it all feels pointless, heavy, or too quiet to matter. But those are not signs to stop. They are invitations to remember one question, one that can guide you through every storm. Am I living like the person I was born to be? You don't need the whole answer. You don't need to be 100% sure. But if, even in one small act, the answer is yes, then you are on the right path. That one act could be a decision you didn't delay, a moment you stayed present, a thought you chose to reframe, a walk you took when your mood said no. And if even one of those things brought you closer to who you want to become, then you're not lost. You're just becoming. Because becoming isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's not even visible most of the time. Becoming is built in the shadows, in the quiet mornings, in the tough conversations with yourself. And if you can hold steady through those, if you can keep rising without applause, you will build something no circumstance can shake. Self-trust. And from self-trust, you build the life you were meant to live. You see, we spend so much time chasing achievement, yet so little time becoming the kind of person who can sustain what we achieve. We want clarity without stillness. We want results without habits. We want change without consistency. But that's not how transformation works. You don't become who you're meant to be in one grand decision. You become that person every time you refuse to abandon yourself. You don't rise once. You rise every single time you come back to yourself. You rise each time you pause instead of react. Each time you keep a promise to your future self. Each time you resist the easy distraction. Each time you go to bed early instead of staying lost in artificial light and noise. Each time you put the phone down and breathe deeply. These aren't small things. These are rituals of power. When the world gets loud, you now know how to return to quiet. When you feel foggy, you know it's time to move your body or drink water or sleep earlier. When your thoughts spiral, you remember the tools. Question them, reframe them, choose again. When fatigue sets in, you listen, you adjust, but you don't quit. Because discipline isn't pressure anymore. It's alignment. It's who you are when you're not being watched. And maybe that's the real turning point. Realizing you no longer need to be seen to stay consistent. That your actions are no longer for performance. They are for peace. They are for your future self. They are for the version of you that whispers, "Thank you for not giving up on me." That version isn't far away. It's being built with every breath, every step, every choice you make today. So today, choose something small, something easy to ignore but powerful to complete. Rewrite your commitment. Breathe slowly for 3 minutes. Turn off your phone 30 minutes earlier than usual. Say no to one thing that drains your focus. Say yes to one thing that nourishes your purpose. Start small, start sincerely, and remember that each time you act with intention, you are shifting more than your day. You're shifting your identity. You are teaching your nervous system that peace is available. That clarity is within reach. That power comes from alignment, not perfection. And in that space, life begins to change. Not in big, dramatic waves, but in deep, unshakable roots. You are no longer standing still. Every step forward, even the quiet ones, becomes a movement toward the life you know is waiting for you. You don't need to change the world to feel worthy. You don't need to control every outcome to feel safe. You just need to stop betraying yourself. And that alone is enough to change your world. The world may still be chaotic. There may still be storms ahead. But now you hold the wheel. You're no longer waiting for luck, for calm, or for perfect timing. You've decided to live awake. You've chosen to rise daily with integrity. And that, more than anything, is the real victory. So today, before the world tells you who to be, pause. Ask the only question that matters. Am I living like the person I was born to be? If you can answer yes, even in one small action, then you're already walking the path. You are enough. You are rising. And you are the one holding the wheel of your life. I wish you strength, consistency, and peace on this path. May you return to it again and again. And each time you do, may you remember the way back is always within.